There are all kinds of clubs and organizations out there that we can belong to. And one of the ones that fascinates me and has fascinated me for a while is the idea of book clubs. You hear about people who get together to read a book, the same book at the same time, and then come together to talk about it. It's something I've never been involved in, but always found very fascinating. And we've got some people on joining us today who are going to talk about their own experiences with that. They satisfied some of my curiosity. Maybe they'll satisfy some of yours. So put on the brakes, join the conversation, grab a cup of coffee. I didn't say that in the right order, but it doesn't matter because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. It's obvious that we're going to need some of this today, a lot of this possibly today. Put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation. Listen, it's a good thing that a lot of what we have on here, our conversation with our guests, is pre-recorded because it's also obvious that I'm going to have a tough time getting through a complete sentence this morning, and that's okay. All right. Yeah. Just want to say hello to those of you who are here. Rick, Carla, good morning. And good to see people here. If you are here today, please do make sure that you are joining in the chat and being part of the conversation, and let us know that you're here. We do monitor the chat, and we do want to make sure that what is going on in the chat is appropriate and relevant to what we are talking about today. So if you are adding things that do not fit those guidelines, your comments will be deleted, and so will you. Just want to also encourage you to let us know how your Thanksgiving went. If you're in the United States, Thanksgiving was a couple days ago, and we want to make sure that we learn about your experiences. Ours was fun, has been fun so far. We have family in town. Not all of our family, that's going to happen at the Christmas holidays, but we do have family in town. We decided to do something a bit different this year. We're going to see if it becomes an established holiday. Instead of cooking at home. Now, one of the things is that because family can't always get here by Thanksgiving Day on Thursday, some of them are coming in during that day. And so what we've done the last couple of years is to make sure that we have family here before we start participating in activities and the meal and everything else. And so we usually wait and do our Thanksgiving Day activities on Friday. Yesterday was the day that we pre-recorded the Macy's Thanksgiving parade and watched that yesterday morning when our granddaughter was here. And then one of the traditions is Christmas decor, Christmas activities can't really begin until after the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, because at the end of that parade, Santa Claus appears, and that is the official start to the Christmas season. That's one of our rules. And if I'm perfectly honest, that's Carol's rule. I play Christmas music year round, but I can't do it in front of her. I can't have it on in the car when she's in the car until after Santa Claus appears at the end of the Thanksgiving parade in New York. So we got to that point yesterday. And at that point, now the Christmas tree has been up for a few days, but not lit. So following Santa Claus's appearance, Carson, our granddaughter, was able to turn on the tree. That's part of the tradition. I was able to start wearing Christmas-based attire, and we got into the Christmas season. And I started to mention that we didn't cook at home. We actually made a decision to go out to eat yesterday. And we went to a local buffet restaurant, the Golden Corral, here in Spokane. And I'll tell you the truth, we've been there before, and I will tell you the truth, it's not cheap, kind of throw on the plate food. They have some of the stuff is better than others, like in any restaurant, but they have some very good food. And the nice thing was we didn't have people going, I like this, but I don't like that we might put on the table for Thanksgiving. People could select what they wanted to eat in proportions they wanted to eat. And, that's kind of the good news and the bad news. The bad news is we didn't have leftovers to continue to eat today. The good news is we didn't have leftovers to try to figure out what to do something with. Anyway, to each his own, but we've had a great time. Curious about how your Thanksgiving has been going. Shalane is here. Kelly Schultz is here and says it went good. Who else is here? Let's see. Carla is here. Kathy is here. If I'm not saying hi to you, make sure you say hi again in the chat. I'm trying to. Carla says no Christmas music here until Christmas Eve. And no, I would never survive. Going back a number of years, back in the day when I used to direct choir at our church, and Christmas choir was a big deal. And we would start rehearsals in September, the beginning of September, to be ready for the Christmas program and service. And to do that, we would need to begin previewing and listening to music so that we could decide what was going to be included back in June. And so I had to be careful about how I went about listening to the Christmas music during summer months, because it would drive my family nuts. So I invested. That's, I think, when I invested in my first set of very nice headphones. Anyway, how was your Thanksgiving? And yeah, so again, if you're here, say hi. If you're here for the first time, love to know how you heard about us and where you're signing in from. We do monitor the chat. So if you are new to Coffee Breaks with Steve, just know that we want to keep all conversation and comments, have fun with it, but we want to keep it appropriate. We want to keep it centered on our time together here around our virtual coffee table with the Brew Crew. And appreciate having you here. All right, listen, I want to get to our sweet and savory so that we can get to our conversation with our guest today. Let you know a few things that have been and are going on. And want to let you know about this story I saw. It was on the TV station posted this, KARE, Care 11 in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And it was a story, I know this picture that you're seeing looks a bit dire, but it was about two young people, teenagers, who ended up with traumatic injuries that placed them in comas in the same hospital within a few days of each other. And their story is an interesting one. So I'm now just going to share from KARE 11 the story that they shared within this last week or so.
Wedding vows usually involve till death do us part. But surprisingly, it's near-death experiences that actually led to the pending union Boyd Huppert found in his land of 10,000 stories.
The man and woman being escorted into Regents Hospital have come a long way.
John 10:10.
Both live nearby.
Can't find Joel.
But a long way.
We'll find it.
Nonetheless.
I think that'll be good. Hey, my name is Zach.
And I'm Isabel.
And this is the Hope in Healing podcast.
A journey linking Zach Zarembinski.
It started off about the same for both of us.
And his podcast co-host.
So crazy.
Isabel Richard.
But you need to know that your son and daughter may not make it through these first critical 72 hours. What we have in common is the TBI. It's a traumatic brain injury.
Isabel's journey started at 16 in this mangled car while on her way to her grocery store job. Zach's at 18, making tackles for the Hill Murray football team.
2018.
Mine was October 27th, and yours was?
November 5th.
9 days apart.
Yes.
Same year.
Zach and Isabel arrived by ambulance at Regents Hospital.
I remember she was laying there. She had shards of glass still in her hair, and she was unconscious.
Both moms told
I just was like praying.
their children might not survive.
Isabel had to have her right skull piece removed. Zach had to have his left skull piece removed.
Zach spent more than a week in a coma. Isabel was still in a coma
I am just grateful for all the support.
when Zach appeared at this hospital news conference,
We had the TV on.
which happened to be on the TV in Isabel's room.
My husband and my sister said, let's go down. They're going to give us hope.
And minutes later, there's Zach listening to Isabel's mom.
He was telling us she'll be okay.
And when Zach's mom heard Isabel was out of her coma,
We're going. Yeah, we're going.
it led to this day at the hospital when Zach met Isabel for the first time.
Said a couple kind words to Isabel, and that was it for 6 years.
But not it
We stayed in touch on Facebook.
for moms,
Yeah.
Tracy and Esther.
I said, Zach, come on, why don't you invite Isabel out to lunch? And he's like, oh no, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
But a couple years later, Zach and Isabel took this photo as their families met for dinner,
I asked her for her phone number.
which led to this first date, which led to this.
I love you.
I love you too.
Zach and Isabel have now been together for a year,
This is an honor to be here.
which brings us back to their podcast
He has redeemed our stories.
and a special episode taking place at the very spot Zach met Isabel's mother.
Excited.
Who, by the way, is sneaking up with Zach's mom. Because both families have been tipped to what's about to happen.
Can't wait.
Around the corner.
I just had to have a question for you. Will you marry me?
The question lingered that long.
Yes.
Then the medical teams that supported Zach and Isabel supported them still. Unimaginable as they both lie separately in comas.
I love you so
I love you
much.
too. Today, instead of coming down here 7 years ago, it's just like sorrow to joy.
Yes.
Two lives
Thanks for coming.
that intersected
You are such a miracle.
in the worst
Thank you.
of times
I'm so proud of you.
are now paving a road together in the best. Boyd Hubert, Care 11 News,
It's a beautiful thing.
St. Paul.
Because their brain injuries were on opposite sides, Zach and Isabel tell us their weaknesses and strengths complement each other. Just another way they believe they are meant to be together. Congratulations. That's so awesome. I love the moms, always working it behind the scenes. Always working it behind the scenes.
No pressure at all.
Oh, I love that story.
All those people there, big question.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love a great story, and there's so much about this to enjoy and appreciate. The love story that developed, but I'm with you, Shalane. I love the fact that first and foremost, the moms became best friends, and we're doing so much behind the scenes to help this couple come together. So what a great story, and we wish them, all of them, the very best going forward. What else is going on in our sweet and savory? Well, we do have a couple of birthdays that we want to mention. Moni Knopp, who is a realtor in California, as well as a philanthropist and a survivor of the killing fields of Cambodia, has joined us on the show to talk about his story. And Moni is celebrating a birthday this next week on December 2nd. Happy birthday, Moni. And then Jerry Thompson, who's a regular member of our Brew Crew. And this picture, there's a couple of reasons why you're seeing this picture. No, Jerry is not in elementary school anymore. But number one, this is her profile picture on her Facebook. And second of all, this is kind of how I remember Jerry, because Jerry and I were classmates and friends going back to elementary school. And Jerry, we've reconnected via Facebook. And Jerry, as I mentioned, is a regular part of the Brew Crew who tunes into this show. And Jerry is celebrating a birthday this next week as well. So happy birthday to Jerry Thompson on December 4th. Just a reminder, do you have a special day this week? You can let us know in the chat if you have a special day that's coming up in the next few weeks, maybe the next few months, and you want to make sure that we do get it on our calendar so that we can acknowledge and celebrate that with you. You can send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. And we do check our emails regularly, consistently. I'm kind of obsessive about it. And so we will make sure that we get your information and include it in upcoming episode at the right time, on the right date, on the right week, and the right time. However, I'm supposed to be saying that. Anyway, thank you so much for all of that. It's once again great to have you all here. And I do see that we've had a couple of people join us since then. Kim Baker is here. Good meowing afternoon and happy Saturday. Absolutely, Kim. And the same to you and to your household of furry, four-legged friends. And yes, I did say that. All right, listen, I want to tell you just a little bit about our guests and the chat that we had with them that we are hoping you will learn from, participate in, etc. 3 people joined us for this. You may recall, if you're a regular to the show, that for several months we were talking about wanting to provide an episode, share an episode about book clubs, something I was curious about. And it asked people who were willing to, who had some experience either currently or in the past participating in book clubs, if they would be willing to join us. And we did get these 3, and it was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. But let me tell you just a little bit about each of them as I clear my throat. Kathi Garlick says she could read on a 3rd grade level before she started school. As a teenager, she'd ride her bike to the neighborhood library and come home with a basket full of books, usually reading all of them before repeating the process 28 days later. Clearing the throat. Hang on. Kathi loves to hang out in bookstores, especially children's books, and always lists reading as a hobby. When not reading, she teaches music at an elementary school. She is the mom to 4 grown children and grandmom to 8. Brenda Patik lives in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Wow, the throat is really not cooperating today. And has been an avid reader her whole life. She works at a dental office during the day and spends a lot of her free time involved with the theater community in the Twin Cities area. Carla, I'm going to tell you something about this introduction for Carla, and I'm ragging on her a little bit. I asked all 3 of our guests to provide a brief bio for this introduction. My sister Carla responded in kind of making a little poke at last week's Coffee Breaks episode about artificial intelligence and said, "Oh yeah, I will send that to you as soon as my AI writes it." I did not receive a bio from you, Carla. If you did send it, it didn't get to me. So I actually asked AI to write one. And this is your bio from artificial intelligence. Carla Venturi is a retired Oregonian who has happily traded deadlines for trail hikes and mushroom hunting in the small town of Tidewater, where she lives with her husband, Rick. A devoted nature lover, Carla finds magic in the world around her and in the worlds she discovers through the countless audiobooks that accompany her daily activities. She believes every day holds a new story, whether it's found in the forest, along the river, or through a great narrator in her headphones. I think that's pretty good. Anyway, I hope that you will join the conversation as we get to learn a little bit more about book clubs from all 3 of our guests today. Well, Kathi, Carla, and Brenda, thank you all 3 so much for taking the time to be here and to satisfy my curiosity and maybe the curiosity of others who are watching this about book clubs. Now, all 3 of you are currently involved in at least one book club. Kathi, I'll start with you. How many book clubs are you currently involved in?
I am currently in 2 book clubs. One of them is in person and one of them is online.
Okay, and we're going to be talking about that, the different ways these book clubs can take place. Brenda, what about you?
I'm in 1 online book group and 2 in-person book groups currently.
All right. And you're calling them book groups, but I imagine the book club book group, that's maybe a matter of semantics as well. Yeah.
It can also be regional.
Okay. It might also be regional. We can get into that a little bit. Carla, are you involved in more than one book club currently?
No.
But you are currently involved in one.
Right.
So I think one of the things that is interesting to me is how each of you first got involved in, whether it's the book club or clubs that you're currently in, or just the idea of book clubs. Was that something that, always interested you? Was it something that was a carryover from younger days of just reading? And we'll kind of go the opposite direction. Carla, how did you first even get started with a book club?
Kathi asked me to join, I think, this book club that started in Utah. I think long time ago, people would get together over breakfast. And then later, after Corey, our sister, died, she was a big part of the book club.
Yeah.
I think then it kind of, I don't even know if it existed for a while, but then it became
COVID was a factor.
And then it became this other book club, and I was online book club. And
that allowed you to do it because you don't live in Utah. So, okay. That makes sense. And then Brenda, you're involved in 1 online and 2 in-person book groups. How did your involvement in that begin?
One of them is through a church I used to attend, and I think it was during COVID. They were meeting online at the time, and I think I just got dialed in that way, and we now meet in person. And then one of them was a friend who knows I read a lot was like, hey, that book that you said you just finished reading, we were reading that in book group, and a bunch of people in this group. Would you like to join? And I said yes. And then the one that's online is run by someone that I followed on Instagram, who's kind of an online government teacher. And when she started her book group, I was like, I would like to join.
Okay. All right. And Kathi, with you, I mean, Carla kind of already referred to one of the book clubs that the two of you are both involved in, but what was your experience in getting started?
Our sister Corey wanted to do a book club, and she had this idea that we could meet once a month over breakfast at a restaurant, and which we did, and it was our, breakfast book club, and which it was great. I love going out to breakfast, and so that was perfect. But we would just, that's how we did it. Then COVID put the kibosh on the whole thing. And eventually we said, let's start this up again, see if Carla wants to be involved. Carla was in Oregon. My son, Jared, who had been involved in the Breakfast Book Club when he lived in Utah, is now in Northern California. And he is a sometime participant. And that's how the first one, it was Corey's idea. And going out to breakfast and reading books, it seemed like a great combination. The other one, the one that I've actually been involved in longer, started as a church thing, kind of with my church, and just kind of, is anybody interested? And yes, we were interested, but we didn't read church books. We read, fiction mostly.
Yeah.
And over time, it kind of just got off on its own little thing, just more of a neighborhood book club, and just in one form or another, except for some time off during COVID. We've been doing this for many years, actually. So I'm not sure. I can't remember when it started. But it's been a number of years. So
you mentioned your son Jared being a part of and sometimes still participant, and that brings up another interesting point, which is that in my kind of looking into book clubs, they seem mostly to be something that women are involved in. You don't see or hear that much about men being involved in book clubs. So I'm wondering, for each of you, do you find that is the case? Are there more men involved in book clubs than maybe gets publicity? For any of you, what are your experiences with that? Is it mostly women involved in the groups and clubs that you are part of?
I have one in my in-person neighborhood book club. One of the girls' husbands frequently reads the book, and a couple of times when it's been at her house, he's sat in on the book club. But overall, he reads the books, but he doesn't want to horn in on the hen party, evidently. So,
right.
But he once in a while, and so. Yep. I kind of think, in my opinion, it's kind of the nature of just sitting around and chatting and eating snacks and all that kind of stuff. It's not, guys aren't quite.
Men socialize differently than women do. I think there's a different thing that draws men together. And that brings up, I think, another point about the social aspect of being involved in a book club, and whether each of you finds that to be a particular draw, just the fact that you do get to have that time of chatting and socializing, and whether it's in person. And I wonder about that in terms of whether that is different when it's in person as opposed to being an online book club. Carla, since yours is online, do you find that there is still an element of the socializing that makes that attractive for you?
For sure, because so many of the people who are members are family members. So it's kind of an opportunity to get to see everyone. But I think even if it wasn't family, I would, if it's people that you see every time you go, I think that must have some appeal. So you get to see your friends or whatever.
Yeah. Brenda, do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I feel like with the friend group, book group, it's really, the socializing is kind of the point. Like it is we meet every other month. And so it's like, we put a time on the calendar, we're going to hang out, we'll see each other. Hopefully most people can make it. And, everyone can't make it every time, but it's a way for us to stay connected and see each other. Sometimes we've all read the book, sometimes we have not. And it's just a nice time. There's usually food involved. And we just kind of block some time off. Sometimes people bring their kids if they need to, and we just hang out.
Okay. All right. And you know, Kathi, you mentioned that the one club that Corey started was meeting in a restaurant. Where do the in-person clubs meet? Brenda, you're talking about sometimes people bring kids along. Is it someone's home? Is it in a church setting? Where do those in-person groups meet?
So for our friend group one, we kind of rotate who hosts, and then the host picks the book. So we just kind of rotate through. And then for the church book group, we have one person who likes to host a lot. So we're often at her house, but when she can't, we just meet at the church.
And Kathi, for the in-person group that you're involved in, where do those meetings take place?
When it first started, there was the gal who started it. It was always at her house. We always had it. It was, she had the room and the setup, and that's where we did it. And then after COVID, when we restarted it, now like Brenda, it's, whoever we choose, you host it, you choose the book, it's at your home, you provide the eats,
the snacks. Yeah, you're acting as the true host. You talk about, the host picks the book, and I guess it probably depends on the frequency of meeting. But how often is a new book introduced? Kathi, in your groups, how often are you starting a new book, and kind of what is the expectation that you're going to have read the entire book by the time you get together to talk, or is it sort of a chapter by chapter thing?
Now, we do a book a month, and usually, hopefully, everybody has finished the book, although frequently that's not the case. But yeah, we just so like in my in-person book club, we had a few months ago, gal choose a book, and it was like 1,200 pages. And so I listen on Audible or through my library, whatever I listen, because I'm just able to juggle it better if I can listen to a book rather than sit down and read one. But man, in order to finish that book, I had to listen to the part of it like at 2 times speed. But yeah, it was, we try not to have them, we're kind of moderate, because when it gets, and that's probably a good idea when you have a really long book, if it's every other month rather than every month. But yeah, we do one a month in both my groups.
Okay. All right. Brenda, what about you? Is that the same premise?
One of them is once a month, and the other is every other month. And the one that's every other month, one of the rules is the cap is kind of 500. So pick with something that's no larger than that, so that it's more doable. And also one of the rules for that book group is pick a book that you've not read before, which means we get a wide variety of books that people like or don't like.
So Carla, in your case, because you're doing everything remotely, and again, there's this element of how you go about reading the book. Are you a hands-on, I want the book in my hand reader? Are you a look at it on a Kindle or other device? Are you an audiobook person? How do you go about?
Yeah, I'm almost an exclusive audiobook person. I just can't sit still. And once I discovered audiobooks and the ability to move around and do other things, I couldn't go back to holding a book in my hand. And so that's been nice. And I can, like Kathi said, sometimes borrow from the library. So
yeah. Right. That's nice too. Brenda, are yours? I see you nodding for some of this. Are you a book in the hand reader? Are you an audiobook listener, or is it a combination?
I'm mostly digital. I read on my phone a lot, although I have an e-reader as well. And then I do audiobooks through an app, but also through my library. So it's just I usually have multiple books going at a time. So I've got like one book that's my commute home, and sometimes at the library, it's like, which book can I get faster, the ebook or the audiobook? Especially if it's one for book group. I'm like, I have a deadline. I need to have this book read by then. Which one is available first?
For this would be for Kathi and Brenda, because you're both involved in more than one group. But do you ever get confused as to which book you're reading for which group, or where you are in a given book at a given time? Do they ever kind of overlap and run into each other? Kathi, have you had that experience, or do you find it's pretty easy to keep them separate?
I try as much as I can to finish the book as close as possible to our meetings, because if I read a book and then I read another book or another couple of books after that, then I really do. It's like, wait, who, what, now which, what? But I have at times read a book or listened to a book and taken notes, written down, these were the characters, and blah, 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 because otherwise I'm a lot of times
it gets confusing. Brenda, similar experience. Is that what you find too? I mean, you've got, every other month, every month. Does it ever become confusing, or do you find that you're able to pretty much keep them distinguished and separate?
The vibes are very different for the groups, so it's usually pretty easy to keep them separated. The hard part is reading the ones that are not as fun. Some of the books we read are more informational or about learning or growing, and I love being part of that. But I'm very much a mood reader, so it's sometimes very hard. I'm like, I gotta just read this book and force myself to read it. So it's sometimes nice that I have multiple books going, because I can, we're going to read a chapter of this one, and then I can go read a more fun book.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about genres of books. Is there, Brenda, staying with you, is there a specific type of book that you find within each of your groups is kind of the norm? Like, do they trend toward romance novels, science fiction, fantasy, mystery? Is there a consistency within a group, or does it vary? Does it go all over the place? And you mentioned informational types of books. Is that something that's common within at least one of your groups?
Yeah, so for my friend group, we tend to pick broad fiction, although we've kind of hit a groove lately of doing ones that are a little more suspenseful. That kind of is keeping us engaged, and we seem to be hitting some good strides there. With the church book group, we read, we intersperse novels now and then to break it up, but we do a lot of nonfiction there. A lot of it is wanting to read books about people whose lives are different than ours. So we read a lot of memoirs, we read about refugees, or we've read a lot of books about racism, and both memoir style and novel style, and then some that are just more historical based. And so we kind of read across genres, but our goal is kind of about books that make us think or make us grow. That book group is really focused on the book a lot, maybe a little more than just being social, although we are pretty social too.
Carla, within your group, what are the genres and the styles that you see most? What is there a pattern to that?
Yeah, it varies depending on the person choosing the book, but I'll say we don't very often see romance novels. But just as a genre that we don't see much of or any of. We have nonfiction and lots of science fiction and some just fiction. I don't know. Yeah. It goes all over the place depending on which member is choosing that month.
Mm-hmm. Kathi, do you find that with the two groups that you're in? Is there? I mean, Carla talked about the one group, but if you have some different thoughts about that or the other group that you're involved in.
It's funny, Brenda mentioned about being the group where there's you can't choose a book you've already read, and one of the members of the book club that I'm in with Carla, our niece Elena, she never chooses a book she's already read because she wants to have plausible deniability. If nobody likes the book, then she's like, in my other book club, the one that I do in person, again, it very much depends on who's choosing the book. There's one gal who only chooses fantasy. She's really into fantasy. A couple of them are very, very much into historical fiction. So we do quite a bit of that. I tend to more like the thrillers and mysteries and that kind of thing. But it's just, all over the place. depending on who chooses the book, really. So,
But if you're the one choosing, you might tend a little bit more toward the thrillers and the mysteries. That might be your personal cup of tea to make a selection if you're doing it.
a lot of times, although I have to say that I cheat a little bit, because like I'll do one in one book club, and then when it's my turn for the other book club, if it's a good book and a good discussion. This, to me, for book club, you can read a book that's fun and, you know, good or whatever, but if there's nothing to talk about, that kind of just defeats the purpose of having the book club. So a book that is got a lot of grit, a lot of good things that, you know, good discussion, you know, sometimes I double dip. So
I could see where that would be the case. Brenda, you said that you like to go to the ones that are fun for you to read. What is your fun choice? Is there a particular genre or type of book that if you're the one choosing, you would tend toward?
When I'm choosing, I have really enjoyed reading a lot of the suspense ones. It gives us something to talk about too. Like, did you see this coming? What did you think of that? And so I try and pick books that are going to give us something to talk about, because it's true. Like, it can be a book like we enjoyed it, and then there's nothing to talk about. Like, yeah, that's great. That's fine. You know, so something that's got interesting or multiple characters, or like a development of the plot or the development of the characters, so you can talk about that. Sometimes books come with like those questions in the back, and sometimes they're cheesy, but it's really helpful to like get you started on thinking about themes and like, what do you want to talk about with that?
Carla, if you're the one picking for your group, do you have a particular genre or type of book that you go toward, or does it go all over the place?
It's really hard. It's so hard for me to pick. I'm really like it. I feel a lot of pressure to pick a good book, but most of the time I haven't read the book, so I don't really know if it's going to be a good book. I spend a lot of time looking for the good, you know, the right book. And most of the time it's fiction, and often it's kind of fantasy-ish, you know, in that realm, maybe. Is there an
Optimal number in your experience for the number of people to be in a group? Is there kind of like a minimum to make it worthwhile to get together and chat about a book? And is there so many that you've ever been involved in a group that's large enough to where it kind of feels like it overwhelms the opportunity to really have a good conversation? Or does it depend?
There was a book a few times ago that I chose, and Carla was the only one showed up for book club. So it was you know, the two of us chatted about it, but it was a good book, and it was a good discussion. Yeah. I have found at times, I kind of feel like a lot of people, it's book club. Here's the secret. Book club, a lot of times the socializing, kind of, you talk a little bit about the book and a whole lot about other things. And I just really feel like when the group gets to a point, I don't know what the number would be exactly, but you do kind of have all these little side conversations going on. It's hard to get everybody focused.
You can lose the central dynamic at times if it gets too large. Yeah. Brenda, you're nodding. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's really nice if you have at least like 4 people to talk about the book, because then you've got enough people to keep a conversation going. And I feel like kind of between 4 and 8 is like a really good, like, you can have great conversations with fewer or more, but I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot of enough to talk about, but not so much that people can't get a word in.
Yeah. Carla, beyond the one-on-one that you had with Kathi that time, have you found a certain number when the online group gets together that kind of feels most comfortable or most appropriate for having the conversation?
No, we're pretty small. We're a pretty small group. So when we're all together, that's a good group.
Well, that's great. And, you know, there's so much more we could continue to talk about, but I just want to say to Carla, Brenda, and Kathi, thanks you to all 3 of you for taking the time to be here to share your experiences about book clubs, to kind of give some thoughts, some inspiration. And, you know, for someone like me who has never been involved in a book club and kind of always wondered what's the draw, I like this idea of getting together around something that you can bond together for, but make it about the social engagement. So wishing you all three the best as you continue to find great things to read and great people to read them with. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
All right. Yeah, a fun conversation. Once again, thank you, Kathi, Brenda, and Carla, for taking the time to join and to talk about your book club experiences. It was really enlightening for me to understand more about book clubs, and I thought it was really interesting to find out that, in Kathy's case, she's involved with 2 book clubs, in Brenda's case, 3. And things that I've read and heard since even having the conversation with the 3 of them is that that's not necessarily uncommon. People who really love getting into book clubs sometimes are involved in more than one. And in some cases, book clubs, Brenda mentioned this with one of her book clubs, in some cases, they're into book clubs that may not be about fiction reading, but are more about things having to do with their profession, professional development or self-help, or those types of things that could lead to, I think, some very interesting conversations as well. Anyway, well, listen, I want to share a little bit about some things that are coming up in the next few weeks. It's very exciting as we are looking into December, the end of this year. We've got some great guests and conversations coming up, and here's just a little bit of what you can expect to see in the next few weeks.
And then finally, somebody that I knew offered a work, and I did a tour with a journalist who was an American, a travel tourism expert, and then I felt immediately, and then the more I did, the more I loved it. And for a couple of years, I only worked with journalists. That was for the Hungarian National Tourism Board. So
it's just a bit of everything, none of it particularly glamorous, except when I have the privilege of meeting people like yourself on tours, and I get myself all dressed up in my glad rags and can chat about history and heritage and so on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it ends up kind of firefighting as well. It doesn't matter how well you plan your day. So it's like today, we had our day planned and then got a call from the farmer to say that there's water pouring out of the cottage down the road. So that's Simon dealing with that.
Once again, some, I think, very cool episodes coming up. Next week, Kathi Till, who is in Budapest, Hungary, is a tour guide and sharing about her upbringing in what was then a communist country, how that has transitioned, how she first sort of got her passion for and got involved in being an expert in tourism in her homeland of Hungary, and what that means to her to be able to share that with other people. And then 2 weeks out, Simon and Aditi Housen Crawford, who Simon is the 29th laird of the Crawford clan in Scotland, and they operate a castle and 600-acre estate in Scotland, and they're going to share about what that means in modern times, to be the laird and lady of a clan and to operate a major estate in that comes from basically ancient times and an ancient family. And how do you maintain that in modern times? And then we're going to be celebrating the 300th episode of Coffee Breaks with Steve in a few weeks. And we've got some special things planned for that. So you'll want to be here for each one of those. In the meantime, just a reminder, even when I think about even things like a book club and how many ways we can connect with people and how many ways we can join together to impact lives, to touch lives. And it's just a reminder to all of us that with so many things going on around us in our world, we do have a voice, we do have hands and feet, and we can follow our passions and do things that do touch lives. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. Have a great week. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.